Hey everyone, this is Christopher here with another episode of What's Brewing. I'm here with Becca from Knotty Decor, and so we're here at Katherine Grace's clothing store. Just want to say thank you to them for allowing us to have this episode here and for hosting us today. Let's roll that beautiful B-roll. So, Becca, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Sharonton, Jeanneret area, kind of middle of nowhere, but I currently reside in New Iberia.
Nice, the Berry, as they say. I had a friend, Tyler, who used to call it the Berry, and I was like, what? He's like, like New Iberia, the Berry. I'm like, okay. Well, cool. So tell us a little bit, how and when did you get started with your company?
I started doing macrame, honestly, about 4 months ago.
Define that for me, for those who don't know.
Macrame is the art of knots. Basically, you take cord or rope and you knot it together to make a design, a shape, or yeah.
Fun. We will put a link to that in the description below so that way you can learn more. Because this is educational for me as well. I'm a simple caveman, so it helps me learn. So your business, when did you decide to get started?
About a month after I started doing a lot of the macrame, and I kind of got overloaded with it. Made too many things to hang up at my house. So I decided to reach out and see if anybody liked it as much as I did and wanted to start purchasing it.
Awesome. Was it Katherine Grace, or was it, what's her name? Who was the first person you reached out to sell your goods?
Here with this company? It was Fallon.
Fallon, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
How'd that conversation go? How did you approach that? Because I'm always interested to know, because a lot of folks who we have a friend we did an interview with, link in the description here, where she had this really interesting story where she literally quit her job, just didn't go back. She wanted to spend more time with her son, and she just kind of unpacked her story. So for you, what made you decide to have that conversation? Obviously too much to hang in your house, but what made you have the courage or the thought? Did you have experience with business before?
I did not. Wow. No experience at all. I didn't even know what the standard commission is on any of this. I looked into some of the markets to do farmers markets, and nothing really stuck out to me. Really, that would be kind of long-term. Mm-hmm. So whenever I reached out and she found me, actually, she broke it down to me, and I was like, this is an amazing opportunity that I would have never had before. Yeah. And I think it's time that I dive in to really try to learn what having a business is like, because all new territory. Yeah,
and it's, whenever you're starting a business, personally, I never wanted to own a business. I'm glad that I'm a business owner now, but it was intimidating because you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times for me, my passion projects have turned into things that have given me the opportunity to be reimbursed for it. And sometimes you don't know what the value is. You don't know it's worth a lot to you, but you don't also want to, think you're Andy Warhol or something where you're like, oh, well, this is worth $10,000. Worth is always subjective, right? Value is subjective because it depends on who's buying it and what they're buying it for and all this stuff. But when you're getting started, that can be a little intimidating. So did they help you kind of navigate that process to figure out pricing and all that stuff?
Certainly. I have a mentor, I almost call her, who lives in Oregon, and she has been doing macrame for a while. She and I bounce back and forth ideas and techniques, and she's the one who helped me with figuring out prices on everything. And I like to communicate with Fallon and Kayla about what's popular, because they know the fashion side of everything. And since I started doing jewelry, they're the ones who let me know what's in, colors and things like that.
That's helpful. We were talking about that in our interview. I jokingly said my context of fashion is the devil wears Prada, and appreciating that there are styles, there are colors, there are materials that are seasonal and things that kind of rise and fall on what's piquing people's interest.
I've never even seen.
Oh, so for those who don't know, it's a great TV show. It's a great movie. It's an enjoyable movie because you go on a journey with someone who is very much like the audience. I would say the protagonist. Argument could be made she's partially the antagonist in her relationship with her boyfriend. Spoilers. But she goes on a journey, very much like what we do as the audience, where if you're not into fashion and you don't really understand like how things go from Paris to Target, right? Like, because unless you're in it, you don't know. It's a book, but it's a good story that helps us all sort of appreciate it. And again, the person who's the main character kind of goes in that journey. So we kind of go with them. And by the end of it, we're like, oh, we now understand this. Yeah, we get kind of how this all matters. And there's these few key moments. So having something like that, a local resource, is super helpful, right? To be our Sherpa on that journey. Because I'm not that fashionable, right? Me and Kohl's are best friends. And that's not necessarily, I love Kohl's. Not sponsored by Kohl's, but we love Kohl's, but I'm sure there are more, I think, custom clothing out there that you might want to embrace, right? Well, so tell me a little bit about macrame. So what's that process look like? An average piece, let's take for example, something that would hold a plant. How long does that take? How do you decide the materials and colors?
For something like a plant holder, you need something that's going to be secure. So that is going to be the first thing that you look for is a cord that is thick enough and has enough strength to hold something. Then you figure out how long you want it. And that's going to be the first process. This is what a lot of people don't know. It takes you probably longer to cut the cord.
Wow. Because
you have to cut 20 pieces for one project.
Yeah.
So you sit there, you have to measure, you have to cut. And what I have is a clothing rack. So the gravity helps keep the tension right. And just sit there and start doing knots. And that process I've gotten much quicker. I would say the first one I made probably took me about 2 hours. I can knock them out in about 40 minutes now.
Have you ever done one where like you totally like underestimated the length of it and had to redo the whole thing?
Definitely.
Okay.
And because different knots use more or less cord, I've had to learn techniques of how to add cord into it because I end up with a piece that's this long and everything else is that long.
Wow.
So it takes a lot. There's a learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the other types of pieces that you do? What are some of the items that you make and sell?
I make wall hangings. Basically, I take either a stick or a dowel and create shapes on it. I do like dream catchers.
I was about to ask.
So I do the circles. They're more of a modern style though. Not necessarily the netting on the inside. I have some that are almost geometrical. So they have triangles and stuff on the inside. And another big thing, it's gonna sound crazy, but feathers.
Really?
Feathers out of the macrame, yes.
That's intricate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were someone starting a business or someone who was considering buying your wares, what would be some of the things that you felt like were challenges that you went through? Because I think a lot of people see business, right? They either see business and say, oh, I want to do this, right? This is exciting. Or a customer's like, oh, well, why is this, I'll use this word carefully, cost so much? Again, there's a difference between cost and worth. There is your cost of goods and the material and time. There's always that. And then there is the intangible things that count that can't be counted, right? That's where worth comes in. That's what's beyond the value of the raw materials in my time and the art that goes into making, the wares. So if you were looking or talking to someone who's sort of looking at the outside in, again, that person who's maybe, I want to start a business, I want to do that, or hey, I'm buying this stuff, why? What are some of the challenges that you had to overcome or obstacles that you felt like as a part of your journey kind of helped, one, make you stronger to get to this point, but also were things that maybe you were trying at a certain time that really just kind of like set you off your game?
Don't compare yourself to others. The others work. Social media is hard. You join a group to try to learn basics and you see other people's stuff. And it is immediately discouraging that, well, my work doesn't look that good. Work at it. And one of the most important things that I'm learning now that I am doing more products that I normally would not have done because it's more of the popular thing, still find ways to enjoy it.
That's a good word.
Because when this all started, I was in an unhappy job, I had no hobbies, and I wanted to do something fun. So I need to make sure I continue to have fun while I'm doing the work.
Yeah. I think that's it. Anytime a hobby becomes, I'll use the word job, right? Career, vocation, financial reimbursement. It's easy. I think it's easy for any of us, myself included, to feel like it becomes a chore, right? It stops becoming life-giving and it starts to be a little bit life-taking because you're like, okay, I gotta make videos, or my career is not, this is one of the many things that I do, but I do technology. And whenever people are like, hey, I've got an iPhone question. I don't know anything about iPhone. Oh, I thought you worked for XYZ company. On the weekday, on the weekend, I like to turn it off, because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that, because it becomes something that you don't even like talking about. And it's hard to strike that balance of, do I still enjoy what I do? Is what I do, I'll use the word rewarding, because I wouldn't say teaching technology is always exciting, like especially if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, it's not really fresh. Is it rewarding? Yeah, helping people is always rewarding. So I've made it for me, career-wise, helping people. It's not about tech, it's about the person behind the tech. That keeps me going. If it was anything else, I'd be like, I'm done. I can't talk about the same concept for the 50th time. It's, and pretend like this is awe-inspiring again, And I think that's tough for any business owner to keep that balance. Now, do you have any hobbies now, or any sort of, I say mental health, but anything that keep you in a good headspace, positive, hopeful, things that are not work related? Have you developed, now that you're doing your hobby as a job, have you created some other things that kind of help you stay in a healthy place?
Yes, I am obsessed with houseplants now.
Awesome.
I love the discount section in Lowe's, where they're killing everything, is my favorite place.
My wife's as well.
I love to bring them back to life. And one of my first hobbies was refinishing old furniture. And whenever I get burnt out on the macrame, after just knocking out way too many over a weekend, I took a table outside and painted it.
That's awesome. And
that definitely cleared all of the negativity and the overworkedness from it.
Yeah.
And then of course there's my kids. So
I'm sure they're a handful. What are their ages, if you don't mind?
I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot to tackle. So, my mom, I remember, my mom's amazing. She just moved here. She went from GED to PhD, which, if you ever want to feel like an underachiever, she's very generous and very gracious person, very humble, down to earth. She'll just tell you she's a hard worker. I think she's very bright and hard worker. But I can't imagine what that would be like. When I look at my mom, she was such a role model to me, to be balancing a brand new sort of venture and having 2 kids. That's a lot. That's I think what brings a lot of power to these stories is what people see is they see the decor here. We love Katherine Grace. We love the store. We love the work. We love everything that people here are producing, and it's so beautiful. And I think people just sort of see that. They see the glossy. They see the finished product. They see all this cool stuff, but they don't realize that it's people like you, people like us, who are working hard, balancing, right, being creative with also kids, which is basically controlled chaos. I can speak only for myself. I'm sure your children are very well behaved, but if they're anything like the normal child, right, they're everywhere. And then to try to be productive with all that going on is a lot. How do you balance that?
Well, my younger son is split between me and his father's house. So a lot of my work time is dedicated whenever he is away. When he's home, I try to create a separation. I put it aside. Lots of the stuff that's hanging here and that I'm working on has been twirled in. He stands inside and twirls with all the cord around him, and the cat loves to chase after the cord. So I learned sometimes it's just much easier to create that separation and kind of put it away.
Yeah.
There's other things that I do work on. For instance, the stuff like taking sticks and soaking them and debarking, and I'll go outside and work on that while the kids are riding their bikes.
You just have to fit it in,
yeah.
right? Like whenever you can. I think that's what I love about these stories. When we started these series, is honestly getting, I mean, the process of making things that we think is just super cool. I'm a creative. I love making things. I'm not good at art, but I'm more artistic in my thinking, so I appreciate it. But I think the reality is that when you're an adult, when you're adulting, when you're getting older, in your mind, a career is a singular focus. It's the only thing you have to do. It's what you do 24/7, and that's it. That's your single focus. But in reality, when you're an adult, you realize that it's really like spinning plates sometimes. Maybe some people are better at it, but there's a lot of things that we're trying to keep going and also stay productive and making money and making a living. I think that's one of the coolest parts, is hearing it. It's why we love promoting local businesses, because I've never had a business say, listen, I'm just doing too well. You know, like we've never said that as a company. We were like, hey, we're just doing too well right now. We're going to pump the brakes a little bit, push off a little work. No one ever, I mean, maybe someone says it. I would love to figure out what they're doing, and I'll happily take that work. I'm never that busy. And so I love hearing those stories, because one, for me, my mom was a huge role model. Your kids are watching you do this. This is at some level going to seep into their DNA. It's going to impact how they see the world and how they view and work, which I think is remarkable, by the way. Watching my mom's work ethic had a huge impact on me. And I always felt like she put me first, and I always felt like she sacrificed. But my mom is very creative. I'll take a picture and share. She makes little dragons and these little egg drawings. Hard to describe, but once you see a picture of them, but it's the same kind of intricacy. And she would do that between her career teaching, raising me, and then working a full-time job. I just, it was impressive. So I'm absolutely inspired by what you're doing and excited that you're doing it. So last thing, and we'll wrap here. If you're a customer coming in here at Katherine Grace, I have two-part question. Number one, what would be the first, I guess it's subjective, but of your opinion, what would be something you would say, hey, if you're getting into macrame, or if you're looking to purchase a piece, what would you think would be the easiest, most practical one that just about anyone would appeal towards if they were to come here and say, I want to pick something up?
Probably the dream catchers, that style.
I remember getting those. We went to New Mexico several times. I used to go every summer, and I would always pick one up on my way. So that was actually what caught my eye on your site or your Facebook page. And so that was one that came to mind. I'm glad you said that. Now, if you were asking someone to do something based on this interview, what would you like people to do? Do you want people to follow you on Facebook? Do you want them to come in and shop? Do you have a channel that you subscribe to? How could they find out more about what you do?
Definitely Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook, that's where I like to post. I like to remind people that I do customs. That's where I was going to go. If anybody has a specific space that they need to fill and they have an idea of what they want something to look like, they give me measurements. I do customs.
I was going to ask. I didn't want to because I was like, what if she doesn't do it? Because that was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, man, you would probably be super popular for weddings. Because I always do something, in those ceremonies. Plus, being selfish, I was thinking for myself, I have some larger plants. So I was like, I wonder if she'll do that. Well, that's really, really good to know. Well, Becca, thank you so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about it. I think this has been a wonderful experience for me, getting to hear your journey, hearing what you're doing. For those of you watching, hearing that she's got a Facebook page, go ahead and click on the like button, go follow her, go check on her post. We're going to put a link in the description below. Also, she does custom, so if you're out there looking for a special piece, she can make it for you. We've talked a little about her process, and so it's really interesting. So when you see that price, know there's a lot of value there and a lot of hard work that goes into each piece. A little piece of your heart goes in there. It's more than just rope. There's a lot that goes in, and it's, of course, talent. I know, and I'll wrap on this idea, I know that it's very easy to be intimidated by what other people are doing. As a creative, there's a lot of insecurity. And so I would say keep doing it. Every time I take a photo or produce a video or do anything, I feel like mine's not good enough. But I've realized, and I think that's really narrative here, we just have to be ourselves. we have to be okay with that, and lots of folks out there are going to support you. We love having you here selling through Broussard. As someone who's living in Broussard, Katherine Grace hosting this and being here, we're excited because I feel like what they're doing is bringing together a lot of very talented artists who are selling their pieces here, and I know there are folks in town who are going to reciprocate that. So if you're watching, come stop by, go check out Knotty Decor. Again, we'll put all the links in the description for that. Want to thank Katherine Grace. We're going to put a link to their interview right here, so if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. As always, if you enjoy what we are producing, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our content. Thanks again, Becca, for being here. We really appreciate it, and we will see y'all in the next episode.